Now that I've asked you a couple controversial questions.
Hey, go for it.
Right. So a couple controversial questions that were coming up, and I just wanted to make clear and give you a chance to talk about them. One thing is the different pros that you've worked with, the names that I've heard that you worked with. When you look at them, I just wanted you to talk about some of the successes and maybe struggles you've had, especially like when I look at like Cameron Beckman, for example, and where he went on the world golf ranking from around the time you were working with him. And then it seemed like he used to be a really big name on the tour. And I don't know, I think maybe he had some health problems as well. And then also, like I was looking back, you mentioned Mike Weir the other day. I was looking back and Mike Weir, I always thought he was just kind of like had that one really good Masters and that was about it. I didn't realize like for a span of 11 years, he was like
he's a flying dude.
Right. But around 2011 or so, he really tanked. And I don't know if this was around Stack and Tilt or whatever. So I just wanted you to talk a little bit about your experiences with Tour Pros, some of the successes you had, some of the struggles you had, and kind of a little bit.
Yeah. Sure. No, I'm happy to do that. Like, I mean, that's okay. I'll do Steve Elkington first. Okay. So Steve Elkington.
Oh, so beyond producing content, you were helping Steve with his swing as well.
Oh, fuck. Yes. Yeah. That's the only reason. No. So like
I do. The only thing I really remember, and I think the timeline is similar, is he came really close to winning the PGA.
Yeah, that was sick. That was amazing. I was there.
At Whistling Straits.
Yeah.
Oh, you were there. Okay. Yeah. That's wild.
That was. Yeah. He was hitting it. He was hitting it a million miles for him and playing amazing. Like the Tuesday of that week, I contacted his friend Terry Okura and said, "Get on him, get all the cash on him," because it's just he'd been building up. He'd been playing amazing. In fact.
And how old was he?
That one? Was he 47, 48?
Okay.
He was going to be either breaking Julius Boris's record or close to it. Okay. Anyway.
Okay, right.
So, but the point is that I'd worked with him since April. And he had, of that year, and he had just gone from strength to strength to strength. You could look at the results. He was leading. Now, these things are weird because, he's out in front. He was leading with 2 holes to go the week before in an opposite field event, because the opposite field event is for the Bridgestone the week before. And he hit someone in the crowd left of the 17th green, and just the person went. The week before, but he tells us he's leading, right? And he hits someone left of the green. And he tells the story, and the person's on the ground going, he's like, I'm trying to chip, and the person's over there moaning. And it was just brutal. Anyway, the point is he was trending. He played great there. And then, we reconvened the next year. And I think what happened in 2011 was
Yeah, so he finished. I'm just looking up right now. So he finished tied for 5th, but I think actually he was really.
Well, he bogeyed the last 2 holes because he hit a 3-iron over the 17th green at Whistling Straits.
Before the bogeys, what was it? He made some crazy birdie on a par 3, and he gave out that big kick. Yeah. That's the famous moment that I remember, and it was so.
Yeah, he was on fire. I mean, he played with Tiger the 3rd round and shot 67, and just fucking. Yeah. Tiger said to him after the round, said, "Elk, you're hitting the shit out of this. You're fucking winning this."
Yeah, right.
He had 6 birdies the back 9 that day, so he was really on. Now, he hit it over the 17th green with a 3-iron, and he said to me afterwards, he said, "I can't fucking hit it over that green with a 3-iron. There's just no way."
Right.
So, yeah. So that was pretty amazing. And then the next year, he kind of shut it down, to be honest. And the reason he shut it down was because by being exempt from 2010, he was now exempt till 50. And so he was like, yeah. So 2011, 2012, he didn't really play.
Did he feel like when you guys were really grinding it in 2010, you were first together, did he basically, because he was at the tail end of his PGA Tour career at that point, was he kind of burned out to go through that much work again to get it sharp for the next season? He said, I'll go back at it that
probably
again.
That could have been part
later.
of it, and I'll tell you why, is because he's a real family sort of guy, and he wants to really not go away from his family, to be quite honest with you.
Sure.
And so you can see there, after the third round, we're looking at it going, mate, Watney's going to shit the bed, right? And so Elk's like, I'm two back. You know, that was what he said. Yeah. He goes, I'm two back. That's it. So.
Right. Of really.
Yeah. He's like, I'm two back. He goes, Watney's going to shit the bed. So, which happened. But, but shit, look at the leaderboard. I mean, these guys are all good players. It's like, I mean, fuck, it's so hard to win those things. It's incredible. Look at how many guys within two shots there, right at the end.
Yeah.
It's just insane, right? And Elk bogeyed the last two holes.
So
Elk Mars the last two holes, he's in the playoff. Right? So he's 3-putted 18.
And they had issues in
the
the playoffs.
He's 3-putted.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So go on with Steve. So then his priorities were.
Yeah, I just don't think he gave it
what they had been maybe when he was.
No, of course not. And then so I think, look, the guys, he's already got all the money he's ever going to need. So don't worry about it. Like, he's not like he has to go play for the money. So it's like, well, now he was exempt basically till he's 50. And so I think he just thought, I'll just stay around my family. And that's what he did. So,
yeah.
So basically, then he started playing the senior tour in 2013, and he reached out to me again. He just had a particular issue he wanted me to look at. He said, "What do you think of this?" And I told him what I thought of it, and then that really, resonated with him. So I started working with him again there for a period. But it was quite funny because I went back to Champions with him. We were working on some stuff. And Jackie Burke says to me, tell Elk to go down the hardware store and get a hammer and a nail and hang it up. Right. And it was funny because.
Yeah. Why? Because Jackie could see.
No. Jackie just didn't think the senior tour was worth playing.
Oh, yeah, right.
He said, it's not the big show. Like, what are you doing? Like, there's better. And Jackie Burke's mind, and Jackie Burke's like the Dalai Lama to me, so I respect everything that is in his mind. But he said it's like, playing golf for a living. It's not really that good of a thing to be doing, And I agree with that. Having been an ex-player, was everything I wanted, but it's not something I want to go back to. We talked about this last time. It's not that I don't want to compete or push myself, or I actually do want to do those things, but it's not that rewarding. Because you're rewarding yourself,
I know some teachers that they're really only hot to get some kind of playing career going because it would validate their ideas.
Right.
People.
Well, which is fair enough too. Like that's.
Yeah.
Look, that's okay. See, I'm willing to just let my ideas be my ideas because these ideas didn't come from me, right? I didn't make these ideas up. These ideas came to me. And so for me to give them away is like, it's no big deal because like, it's not like they came out of my imagination, right? I observed them.
Sure.
Which means somebody's done them before. And so all I'm doing is just like I'm being a reflector of ideas that are so old, it's ridiculous, right? So I don't claim ownership of
so
that,
you got it. So let's talk a little bit more about your experience
Yeah,
with
yeah.
different tour players. So that was you and Steve, who I think would call it
That was
big
great.
success.
I mean, it was great for
Yeah.
him. I know he benefited enormously that year from our work, but also I learned incredible amount from him. Like just, and there's things he said to me which I learned from eventually, because you have to think about what people say to you a lot to learn anything. But I learned from him, watching him go about it. I was like, oh, I felt so much better about my own failure as a player, because I was like, well, no wonder I didn't make it. I mean, look at this guy. Look at what he does, how disciplined he is, how focused he is.
Yeah.
Mate, you've got to be so on to get to that level. It's crazy. These guys are so switched on.
So then, talk about some of the other players that you've worked with.
Well, Cameron, fantastic guy, funny guy. If people follow golf, they wouldn't even know who that guy is in terms of, just the way he is as a person. Very, very smart guy, very quiet.
Right.
I mean, I think I eventually just became too much for him, right? In terms of my talkativeness and personality, and he's a very reserved kind of chill guy, although very funny. So, but he said something really profound about the swing stuff we'd worked on. There's two things that I can share with my time with Cameron is that, and look, he didn't have any enormous success when we worked together, but I can tell you what was a success is that after the first week we worked together, he used to take 5 Advil to just warm up in the morning. And after a week of working with me, he wasn't taking any Advil. And then he went to the John Deere Classic and made the cut. So he played all 4 rounds. And he didn't go to the physio trailer once. And it was the first time in his entire career that he hadn't gone to the physio trailer at a tour event. And so you can take that for what it's worth.
Right.
I mean, he later said to me that the hardest thing about my swing ideas is how simple they are. And it's a very profound thing to say, because it's true. It's that if you add something to it, it ceases to be the same quality. And he recognized that quite clearly, right? He understood that this was simple, but it was easy to do something else on top of it, let's say, to make it not work. And so, when he won on the Champions Tour, I hadn't worked with him for several years, but I was still incredibly happy to see him succeed like that, because when I left working with him, I just told him, I said, there's nothing in your way. There's nothing in your way. Very talented player, very good player.
And then how about Mike Weir? When did you guys work together? I know Mike is one of those guys that's been with,
Sure.
methods.
So when I met Mike through Cameron. So Cameron and Mike both missed the cut somewhere. And Cameron and Mike were sitting at a bar. They were kind of friendly with each other. And Mike and Cameron just missed the cut. And Cameron had said, Mike's like, what's going on with you, Cam? And he's like, mate, I'm hitting it the best I've ever hit it. This is Cameron telling him, I'm hitting it the best I've ever hit it my whole life, and I got no pain. Things are great, So this is why Mike came to see me. And he came to see me at TPC San Antonio with Cameron. And the first day with Mike, I said, look, I want to
What year about was
2014, 15-ish, 2014.
Okay.
I want to say. if you can find where Mike played quite well at Kuala Lumpur, at the CIMBC, that was where I was there with him. And that's actually the last time I ever saw Mike in person.
Right. So this is, when I looked him up, I mean, this is just an unbelievable run from 2000 to about a couple months into 2010. He was never really he was never outside the top 50, and he was usually inside the top 10 or 40. So because he had famously come from some of the smaller teams, really been kind of a not much, and then you really stayed up quite well. And then you can see right around here, it's sometimes so here's the RBC Canadian Open. He played 69th, but it was like
so it was later that year, even though he played well in 2014.
Early in 2014, early, like on the West Coast swing.
No, but when he got, he came second. Now this is before I met him. When he played he placed second at the Byron Nelson, but that was as he called it, smoke and mirrors. So if we go down, just
this is the Northern California event. He missed the
and then the next here you go.
The IMB class.
Finished 21. Okay. So that's where, so if you go back to the Fries, the week before he missed the cut, I was there with him. Then I was there with him in Malaysia. And they were the only two events I went to him with. Now, to be fair, this is with Mike, okay? He got divorced right after this. Like literally right after that dot, he got divorced. And that was rough on him.
Yeah.
That was rough on him.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it. Yeah,
he's got two daughters that he's extremely, obviously very close to, and so on. And so there was a whole forgetting about that. But if we just stick to when I met him, he was out there with Cameron and me, and the first 6-7 holes we watched him. And I've got a tape of this, by the way, which I've never shown anybody. I'm not interested in, like, and this is the thing. So the people was like, oh, he's just trying to sell us some bullshit. It's like, why wouldn't I show you this if that was the case, right? So I've got tape of Mike Weir one-handing every fucking drive and just hating every full swing, okay? And then he and I have a chat. We have some lunch, go on the range, 3 balls into a drill. I'm like, Mike, you ready to go to the first tee? He's like, let's go. That's it. So that's how quick someone like him with that talent, with the right idea, can take it and run with it.
Sure.
He did. He ran with it. Now, of course, we're all human. We've got this new thing. It's fantastic. And then we hit some bad shots, right? And then he hit some bad shots, particularly in that fries.com. And he wasn't happy with this, that, and the other. So we worked on some things, and he played well at Malaysia. But the problem is he'd so gotten himself in a rut where if he hits a few bad shots in a tournament, he's got to fix that problem.
Oh, yeah, it's a disaster.
And so really, I just never was able to, and this is not a fault of his or mine or anything. It's just like, it's not that I don't want to work with these guys. I do. I think, well, I do. I'd be happy to. I'm just as happy to work with, honestly, 20 handicappers. I don't really honestly care.
Right.
Except the good thing about these top players that makes it exciting is you watch just how fucking talented they are. And like, I'm a pretty talented golfer, but Mike Weir is unbelievably talented. I mean, Cameron Beckman's great. He's a fantastic guy and he's a talented guy. But even he knows, like he just said to me, he said, Mike Weir, he's like, when I played with him back in the day, because Cameron, when he first came up, he played with Mike Weir before he was anybody. And he's like, who is this little fucking guy? Just He's unbelievable.
Did Mike Weir say anything to you? Because there was a famous book written about 2003 because a lot of also rans won that year. Did he say anything to you about like his feeling that year, or how like he was like markedly better that year than other years?
No, I think he
yeah. Or did he talk about like, you know, when he was really on? Like,
well, I think without even saying it, I knew. Like, he didn't need to tell me. I would say it's like it's
Sure.
evident how much talent he has. But what he did tell me was this about the stack and tilt thing. And this is
okay, yeah, because this is like 4 years after he went real.
yeah. And then so I would like,
and he had a high finish at the U.S. Open when Lucas Glover won.
correct. Yeah,
Bethpage Black.
So, and this is not a knock on any one system of coaching, but to the point of what I do versus what I'm suggesting is out there. Generally speaking, it's like, so what he said about stack and tilt was this: is that the reason it worked for him initially, let's say, is because he was moving off the ball too much. So if you've got a method, that's addressing your problem primarily, then it's going to work for you initially. The problem that Mike had with stack and tilt, and this is a problem with everything that's based around geometry, is that the more information you have about said method, the more there is to do. And I have to be honest, this is where I'm saying my approach differs, is that I want to give you a first-class education so that you cannot know more about it. Like you know everything about it. And all that knowledge does is leads you to the conclusion that you've got fuck all to do. That's the goal. The more you know, the less to do. Right? And that's the way it should be, not the more you know, the more there is to do.
Now, another player that you've worked, is that all the players that you've been with?
Aside from when we were at the PGA in 2010, and I want to tell this story publicly for the first time on Be Better Golf. Elk played with Mark Brooks, a former PGA champion, just like Elk was. And the first 2 days, I told you that he was playing unbelievably, and I told his mates to get on him on the Tuesday. And I told all my friends in Australia, get on him. It's great odds. So he plays with Mark Brooks the first 2 days, and Mark Brooks is like, Elk, you're hitting it better than I've ever fucking seen you hit it in your entire life. What the hell is going on? And he says, see that guy over there? Go and talk to him about it. So Mark Brooks comes to me, and I give him a lesson. Yeah, right. I give him a lesson. Okay. And he says, yeah, I'll flick you the money on PayPal. Right. And he fucking stiffed me.
Oh, this
Mark Brooks.
Yeah, this is classic.
Mark Brooks, yeah. Right? So just Mark Brooks, if you're watching, just look up, just flick me some money on PayPal. It's okay. Just go to my channel on YouTube, just donate or do whatever you got to do. Yeah. Like, make it whole, will you? I spent fucking an hour and a half with you when I could have been hanging out with Elk in the cabana having a cocktail. So, you fucked me over, Mark. So enough.
Well, that's the attitude I've found from quite a few people, where they think that
they're entitled fucks.
They're being generous with time, and they're like, you get to be in my presence for 2 hours.
You're in my orbit. You can basically smell my odor from here. So no, but I mean, look,
and that fires.
Sorry, just before I jump on,
go ahead.
Mike Weir's not like that. Cameron Beckman's definitely not like that, and Steve Elkington's not.
Right.
Steve Elkington respects people. Right. So do Mike Weir and Cameron Beckman. But some
nowadays, people they want to say like, do this for me. It could be a lesson. It could be something physical or whatever. Like, it could be like something you actually gave them. and they'll be like, "Hey, I'll post about it on social media." Oh, and you're like, "No, no, let's do it the old fashioned."
Yeah. Actually, pay me for my time would be good.